I'm also the CEO of another company called Things Software, where we do similar blockchain stuff, but for the hospitality industry. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I mentioned that because blockchain, as was just mentioned, by Avi, is something that is gaining attention in a lot of different industries. There's a lot of applications for things like supply chains, title registry, financial markets, obviously. It is a transformative technology, and I'm pretty excited to be here to talk about it with you guys today.
Great. Dan?
So I'm the CEO, I'm Dan Doney, the CEO of Securrency. Securrency is a liquidity engine. It's a new kind of financial technology that allows you to convert illiquid assets, that is earning potential, into highly tradable digital instruments. These digital instruments are it's sort of a blend between a digital currency, a REIT, or an exchange-traded fund, and a bond, taking on the best characteristics of each of those, something that's highly transferable, something that has price stability, unlike the digital currencies that are currently on the market, and something that pays a dividend. So we would be the world's first dividend-paying currency. That is a whole new paradigm, but the main component as it applies to real estate is we can take illiquid assets and make them highly liquid. And that, of course, is transformational, as we'll get into.
Gives you a sense of, excuse me.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. So that gives you a sense of the kind of blue sky prospects here. There really is so much transformation that's possible. But let's dive into Ubitquity's question, because Avi just gave us that great rundown of the way the titling system currently works. I always like it when people say, well, yes, the system works, and there's usually an asterisk next to that, the system works. And I think that if we think back at 2008, it was ultimately a record-keeping problem. Now we think of it as a record-keeping problem for the banks, but at the end of the day, it's when Bank of America had to deal with how they would unwind all of Countrywide's mess of mortgages, this system of record-keeping really works to a point, right? I mean, we've got some problems. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you guys think you might fix some of those problems?
Sure. And Avi gave the answer again earlier. The solution is, or part of the problem today is that our system of record is highly fragmented. And various private organizations have their own plant or their own database of these various titles. There may be disagreement amongst these databases, obviously, and then you get the regulator or the government in the locale that either registers or records these titles. So when you're actually wanting to find out, can I buy this particular piece of property? There's some dollars that need to be spent on trying to figure out the history of that property, right? Who owned it before and who owned it before that? And was there a guy who had access rights to the back alley, which maybe you want to do something else with that back alley? And if that person comes out, 6 months after you buy the property and says, hey, I have access to that back alley too, you end up with potentially a problem. So what blockchain brings that is transformative to this industry is the ability to, oddly enough, centralize a lot of that information. While blockchain is a decentralized concept, meaning that the data does not reside in any one place, what you have is an entire network of computers that agree on what that data is. And so if we were to move and start adopting over time a public system, public registry, or a public database, a blockchain, as a source for our title information in this country, now you would have a place that anyone can have access to, a place where there is no disagreement, or if there is disagreement, there's a mechanism to come to an agreement on what was mentioned earlier as a consensus between the various participants on the blockchain. So what we do at Ubitquity is we have written software that helps the recording of, or that allows the recording of this title information into a blockchain database. So we're using today, for example, the Bitcoin blockchain. Obviously everyone, maybe not everyone, but you probably have heard of Bitcoin. There's other blockchains out there. There's Ethereum, which is also a fairly made the news quite a few times over the last number of months, and more, right? Various companies start their own blockchains for various purposes. You will hear of blockchains that are permissioned, meaning that you can't have access to it unless one of the participants in the blockchain grants you access to it. And there are public blockchains where anyone can go and download a copy of that ledger. Obviously, for title registry, I think a public blockchain is something that is of high value, since we are talking about public records.
Great.
Can I